I'd like to welcome everybody to the May 20th, 2013 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, and our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, and welcome to the public. Chris Hawkins and Bill Barr are unable to make the meeting tonight, so I will appoint Richie Shelton as a voting member.
Thank you.
Okay. The first item of business is the review and approval of minutes for 4/8/13 and 4/15/13. We'll take 4/8 first. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion we accept the minutes for 4/8.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Any improvements, alterations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The 4/15
Make a
meeting?
motion we accept 4/15.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Can I have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Regular business. We have two items. The first item is the Bill Pothier motion for rehearing pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 677.2 regarding the denial on April 8th, 2013 of a special exception pursuant to section 1.05B1 to allow the horizontal expansion of a structure that violates setback requirements, finding that section 1.05B1C, the owner demonstrates that no other expansion which reasonably fulfills the intended purpose can be achieved in conformance with this ordinance had not been met. Okay. One thing we have, first, I wonder if I should take this first and put this to a vote. I'd like to put this to a vote first. It's recommended that the meeting, I see somebody in the audience here, and I assume you're here for that. Okay. It's recommended that the meeting to consider a motion for rehearing not be a public hearing and that no testimony is taken. It is a public meeting and anyone has the right to attend, but all the board is acting on is the motion in front of them that's been submitted and should not involve comments by the applicant, petitioner, or abutters. If the board believes there are sufficient grounds to reconsider their original decision, the motion should be granted. If not, the motion should be denied. And what I'd like to do, since we do have people here, I'd like the board to vote to allow public hearing or not allow it. Do I hear a motion?
I'll phrase it in the affirmative. I'll make a motion that we allow public comment.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Discussion? Vote. Aye?
Aye.
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 Nay? Okay. Which one?
We only have a copy, so,
Oh.
I
excuse me.
left my copy at home, I'm sorry.
All right. Suppose I should read all this.
Get
Um,
tired.
For the public, if you, we want to take turns, we can.
This is from the law office of Scott E. Hogan, 66 Lee Road, Durham. Motion for rehearing pursuant to RSA 677:2, Newmarket Board of Adjustment, from Bill Pothier by Scott Hogan, and it's in regard to the decision of April 8th, 2013, denial of special exception application of William Pothier, and this letter is dated May 7th, 2013. Introduction. On April 8th, 2013, the board granted the applicant's request for variances from sections 1.05B, 1B, and 1.05B, 2C of the ordinance to allow a part of the structure and the expansion thereof to be located within the 100-year floodplain, and granted the applicant's request for a special exception pursuant to section 1.05B2 to allow portions of structures within a setback to be enclosed or expanded upwards. The board denied the applicant's request for special exception pursuant to section 1.05B1 to allow the horizontal expansion of a structure that violates setback requirements, finding that section 1.05B1C had not been met. Section 1.05B1C states, "The owner demonstrates that no other expansion which reasonably fulfills the intended purpose can be achieved in conformance with this ordinance." The applicant asked the board to grant this motion for rehearing regarding the special exception denial pursuant to section 1.05B1C for the reasons set forth below. Standard of review, ZBA jurisdiction. RSA 677:2 states, within 30 days after any order or decision of the Zoning Board of Adjustment or any decision of the local legislative body or a Board of Appeals in regards to its zoning, the selection, any party to the action or proceedings, or any person directly affected thereby may apply for a rehearing in respect to any matter determined in the action or proceeding, or covered or included in the order, specifying in the motion for rehearing the ground thereof, and the Board of Adjustment, a Board of Appeals, or the local legislative body may grant such rehearing if, in its opinion, good reason therefore is stated in the motion. Emphasis added on the may grant forward. On the purpose of motions for rehearing, the New Hampshire Supreme Court has stated, by requiring an aggrieved party to first file a motion for rehearing from an adverse zoning board of a decision before allowing an appeal to the Superior Court. RSA 677:2 is designed to give the ZBA an opportunity to correct any errors it may have made. McDonald versus Town of Effingham Zoning Board of Adjustment, 152 NH 171, 175, 2005. Emphasis added. The in capitals, the ZBA should rehear this matter. As discussed at the board's April 8th hearing, the purpose of this project was to improve the subject structure as it was in severe disrepair, was supported by a foundation consisting of metal drums, and was subject to periodic flooding. A unique aspect of the site and structure is the sluiceway that runs beneath the structure, discharging water into the Lamprey River. The two portions of the structure were historically connected by a catwalk-like connection over the sluiceway, which had evidence of a roof overhead. During the construction process, significant additional resources were spent to protect the integrity of the sluiceway and the area around it. During the construction process, the catwalk-like connection was expanded to provide complete enclosure of the sluiceway, which in the past was directly open to rainfall and the elements. As argued to the board, such enclosure now provides a significantly improved condition in that the sluiceway and the area surrounding it are completely protected. The management of stormwater on the site is improved, as stormwater is now managed coming specifically off the roof lines. The soils around the sluiceway have been fully stabilized and enclosed. The enclosure provides a much safer condition than the otherwise open previous catwalk-like connection, and the structure itself now presents a significant improvement in aesthetics from every vantage point over that of the previous structure design. The board denied, the board denied the request for a special exception for horizontal expansion due to a finding that the owner failed to demonstrate that no other expansion which reasonably fulfills the intended purpose can be achieved in conformance with this ordinance. The applicant asked the board to grant this motion for rehearing so that board members can come to the site and view the property generally, and specifically view the sluiceway under the structure, the area of the previous catwalk-like connection, and view the interior of the structure, which will demonstrate that the existing condition is exactly the design that most fully fulfills the intended purposes of the ordinance and presents a dramatic improvement over the previous condition and a dramatic improvement over the area of now separating the structure with some similar catwalk design. Having such a view of the property and structure will, in any case, provide board members with the information needed to properly assess the project against the standards set forth in section 1.05B1C of the zoning ordinance. It should be noted that at the board's April 8th hearing, no board member could articulate any benefit that would result from denying this request for special exception. Conclusion. For the reasons stated above, the applicant respectfully requests the board to grant this motion for rehearing. Respectfully submitted, William Pothier, by his attorney, the law office of Scott E. Hogan, 66 Lee Road, Durham, New Hampshire. Date May 7th, 2013. Wow.
Well done.
Well, I think we should open it up for public hearing, public comment. And,
I think you should before we discuss
yeah,
this.
and then we'll discuss it.
Yeah,
And,
after.
So if you'd like to make some comments, feel welcome, and just tell us who you are and.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Bernard Gordon. I live at 6 Bay Road. I've lived there I've been living in New Hampshire since 1971, in this town since the year 1999, and before that, just a few miles down the road in Durham. I want to congratulate the board for having done a thorough job, although, of course, I don't agree with part of what the board did, but that's past history. I want to draw attention to what the chairman just read a moment ago when he read the last sentence from Mr. Hogan's statement, where Hogan wrote on behalf of Mr. Pothier, "It should be noted that at the board's April 8th hearing, no board member could articulate any benefit that would result from denying this request for special exception." I want to draw your attention in that sentence to what Mr. Hogan wrote, his phrase, "No board member could articulate any benefit from denying this request for a special exception." It seems to me that for the board to uphold what the rules and regulations are and the ordinances, the applicable ordinances, are themselves the benefit. They are themselves the benefit that we all expect a properly constituted body to follow. And for Mr. Hogan or somebody else to assert without any evidence, because he says that no board member could articulate, he says that as an assertion. But even if that were the case, the notion that a board should have to articulate a benefit from denying the exception flies in the face of the fundamental reality and the point of all of this, because the board is doing its proper thing and following closely and carefully what the applicant put forward in the early instances. And as I say, and I'll stop it right here, although I do have one further comment. The basic point that I want to make is that the benefit is in itself the gain. The benefit of upholding the rules is something that we all expect. And for an attorney to charge that board members could not articulate any benefit from what they did is beyond a reasonable expectation. When you do your job, I don't want to even imply that I have any basis to tell you what you do in your job, but when you do your job, that's the benefit. That in itself is the benefit. If there's a question on that, I'll be happy to try to answer it. I just want to say one other thing, because I heard when you read the attorney's statements a few moments ago, it's possibly true that the building that's now up is prettier than what was there. It probably is so, but that's really not the point. The point is that, I mean, he could make it beautiful, he could make it the Taj Mahal. The issue is really not whether it's prettier, whether he spent more money or did a careful job, and it's a better looking a structure than he judges the prior one to have been. The issue is whether the rules were followed. And when the original application was made within the permit, within the constraints of the permit that he had, if he did not follow those requirements, and if he had a concern to come forward and say, I can't do it that way, then he had to come forward and amend and change his permit. He didn't do that. So what bottom line really this whole thing, it seems to me, comes down to is to grant a special exception on the grounds on the perimeter, and after the fact of the building, is really, as I said a moment ago, is to make a mockery of the whole purpose of why we have rules and regulations and ordinances in Newmarket. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I guess I'll open it up for discussion.
Well, I think we all should speak our piece and what we think, because I can figure this two ways. At the meeting that you held where you denied the application, the board did their due diligence and reviewing and denying the special exception. And as there is no new information that wasn't available previously, we have a right to deny the application. There's no new information in this. The waterway under these buildings got nothing to do with the permitting. I mean, that's between whatever he wanted to do. We're talking about the expansion, not the work he did underneath. So in that view, we've got a right to deny it, but then in the other view, you know, here we are with a piece of property that the guy spent a lot of money on, no doubt about it. We had 3 different code enforcement officers involved in it, all part-timers, and we don't know, we never had one come in front of us to testify what they really allowed. So in that view, we don't know what went on. And like I said previously, if we had a full-time code enforcement officer, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. That property would have been stopped before it got going. But with a part-time help, that's what you end up with. So should we grant a rehearing? Well, I think that everybody should speak their piece on that, because I did write up something on the thing, because the DS permit issued was to replace in kind 2 existing barn buildings, one of 675 square feet and one of 500 square feet in the developed upland tidal buffer zone, including replacement of deteriorated substandard piling foundations with concrete foundation within the same footprint. It's not there anymore. Then it goes on to say, this approval is subject to the following project-specific conditions. All work shall be in accordance with the revised plans by Alexander Braun, architect, dated 3/18/08, and it's different than that now. And following the demolition of the 2 barns and before construction was started, as the building or buildings to be constructed were not in the same footprint, the applicant should have been before the board requesting the variance needed for the site changes. This, in my opinion, is why we should grant a rehearing if the board sees fit. The town had 3 different part-time code enforcement officers signing permits on this project. I believe that there was no oversight as to the changes in the new construction by the part-time code enforcement officer to halt construction prior to and when changes were made to this project, and also that the applicant, and especially the builder, should have been before the board requesting variance or variances needed. We should have received testimony, which we have not heard from the builder who authorized him prior to make changes different than what was approved, and also why the oversight by our code enforcement officers as to why they let this continue. So we got a bag of worms to figure what we're gonna do with. Have we got a right to deny it? We've got 100% right to deny it, because there's no new information in the reason for a rehearing. But I've stated my views on the whole project.
Okay, thank you.
The applicant did say that at the 8th of April, that he was not around when that change was made on the cover to the sluiceway. The builder just went ahead and did it. But as you say, you had code enforcement officers there who could have stopped it and should have. So my feeling is granting the rehearing is not a problem, because we're just going to come back to the same problem we had before. But in any case, he's going to end up at Superior Court, I think.
Are you saying you don't have a problem with the rehearing? Is that
I
what
have
you
no
just said?
problem with rehearing it,
Okay.
but that's not to say that,
What are we going to achieve by having the rehearing? This is the question.
yeah,
Are you
We have
expecting
no
that
new-
maybe-
We have no new information.
there is no.
And he hasn't, the onus is on the applicant to bring forward
True.
new information.
That's true.
And I'm in kind of a unique position, because I'm sort of like a code enforcement officer. I'm an inspector out on a project. I can't stop the work, but just because I don't stop something that's not going right doesn't absolve the contractor of the responsibility to do the work in accordance with the approved plans and specifications. Now, at some point, the contractor made a decision to deviate from the plans, holding a permit in hand that said on the same footprint. So in doing what he did, conscious, unconscious, whatever, he's the one that went ahead and did that. Code enforcement, maybe a sharp code enforcement officer would have stopped it or made note to that and done it sooner. It didn't happen. But that doesn't absolve the property owner and the contractor's responsibility to build it in compliance with the plans and specs. If I find something's been done afterwards that doesn't meet the plans and specs, the contractor's still responsible to make it right if it's a
I think that's why I said 3 months ago, why don't you just go back to and make it like the plan,
yeah.
and this problem will go away.
No,
My problem with this is just what, I have a couple problems. I think we were caught in a situation where we were in between code enforcement officers. Mike Hoffman, the current, came on after he started the building, and we had a part-time in between, and I think you're absolutely right.
We had a part-time before.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but, well, oh, yeah.
You signed a demolition permit.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right, so but we were in a transition. But the thing that really bothers me about this is that this board is put in a position to, for a lack of a better word, punish somebody. And I don't think this board should be put in that position. That is what bothers me the most about that. If he had come before us in September of last year,
You know what?
presented that to us, I think he might have had a good case. But to come after the fact and ask for forgiveness, I mean, I don't have a problem. And as far as a rehearing, I'm getting a little off but I don't, the only thing I see he bases his whole argument on is that we go out there and look at it. That's the only thing. He doesn't present anything else. I don't know. I think we've all of us have been by the property, so we know the situation. So, I mean, in all fairness, I'm real conflicted about.
Oh, this is not a good one. I'm very.
You know, originally, that buildings were demolished, and they were gonna, and the footprint was gonna be the same. Well, the minute he changed the footprint, he should have came before this board and got a variance for this, first of all, for the side setback, because the building is turned now from the way it was, where he's got the two-car garage. Before, it was the other way. And he should have, when we changed the footprint, is when he should have said, we gotta get a variance. Or somebody should have thought of
Well,
that.
somebody should have.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's not our problem. There's errors
That's not what
done.
we're here to decide tonight.
And-
We're
and
here
I-
to say,
And I think what I'm saying is we should either grant it or deny it.
drumming up thing. We're here tonight for a very specific reason, to
Right.
review the letter from the attorney and to question whether there's compelling evidence that has been provided in that letter that would warrant a new hearing of the application.
And
I-
in
And there's
your
a couple of
opinion,
things, that are mentioned in the handbook put up by the Office of Energy and Planning. And one of them is, has there been a change in circumstances since the first hearing that would warrant reconsideration by this board of the application? Another item is there additional information that's now available that wasn't available at the time of the first hearing? We really need to be focusing not on what happened in our process, but whether or not a variance and a special exception is warranted, given the testimony you heard at the first hearing and the decision that you made. Do you feel confident in the decision? Were there any errors, do you think, that were made that this rehearing would give you an opportunity to correct? And what I heard from Richie Sheldon, Mr. Sheldon, was that you know, maybe we could have had some testimony from the building official. Is that something that, if we had a rehearing, that you would hope that we would have that kind of evidence presented? Would that change your
Well, no, because I
opinion
think that
going
was
forward?
available prior,
Okay,
and nobody requested, it was there.
okay.
It was nothing that was found, you know, and I don't see in the attorney's letter that warrants a rehearing. There's nothing new there.
Right, that's what we have to focus on.
And that's what we gotta base it on, his
not
letter,
whether
and I don't see nothing in his letter that warrants a
The
rehearing.
only thing that I see that we can vote on, that he is the site walk. And I mean, if,
Well-
I don't personally feel that a site walk
A site-
will
Change it.
And we
change anything.
No.
We could have done one 2 weeks ago,
I
whenever
I
the
went
hearing
out
was
and I
held.
walked the site
Yeah.
on my own.
And I did too.
And that way it doesn't constitute a posting of a meeting or anything like that. I just went out and looked.
Yeah, but I don't think that I will learn anything. I don't think he can present anything that hasn't been presented. He did a fine slide show. He did, you know, a presentation that, I just don't see that he's presented any new evidence.
There's no new evidence in the attorney's letter to us that warrants a rehearing.
The reason to go hasn't been put in the letter.
The thing I'm looking at is, and again, I'm torn. I think he's done a very fine thing over there. If he'd have followed the
Plan.
the plan, if he'd followed the procedures in place. However, what the gist of my vote was, the ordinance is the ordinance, and I voted that way to preserve the ordinance in place. And the fact that the permits that were issued said in kind, on the same footprint, everything like that. Prior to the start of construction, if he'd have come in and presented a different plan, might have been perfectly appropriate, but I voted to preserve the ordinance. He came in after the fact and said, oh, by the way, you know, I changed the plans. Well, sorry.
Well,
Well, I think we discussed it enough. Do we
I-
want to make a motion?
I still say, this should be, I don't know what the solution, maybe this is a discussion after the fact, but to put the board in a position to,
But that's what you do. That's your role. Your role is to
That's our role.
rule on administrative appeals and decisions that have been made or haven't been made. And then to move it forward through the
I know that's.
court system and let the courts
I guess-
decide.
I guess one thing
From there.
I'm wondering whether it would be appropriate for us to ask the code enforcement officer to sit in on our meetings when we have something
That
that's,
would help.
I mean, Dan used to come to some of them,
Because,
Especially on things like this. A simple.
Well, for many years, the code enforcement officer was always also the code administrator, where Diane's sitting right now,
that would have been helpful.
and we never did have much problems, because they were taken care of right in hand until there was a little bit of in-house politicking, and Mrs. Hardy took the place of the previous,
Don't
And
implicate me in
administrator.
that.
and so.
Well, this project was signed off by people who represent the town, so that's really a mess.
That's right, but there was, I know there was a lapse there, and I'm not
But that's
blaming
not our
anybody.
fault.
No, it's not.
No, it's not our fault.
It's the builder's problem as well as anybody else,
Yeah.
more so the builder than anybody else.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
no,
We're
it's the
only doing
owner's
the
fault,
job.
because he is the ultimate,
Well, he trusted the
But
Well,
you,
builder,
yeah,
no,
well,
this
yeah.
and he
committee,
wasn't there.
When things change.
one of the functions of this committee is to provide
Is there
relief
new-
from administrative decisions that are made. And in this case, the decision was not to move forward with any enforcement action.
Right.
And now we're coming in after the fact. So it is what it is. We can't change what happened.
It is what it is, and there's no new
And-
information that we hadn't previously heard
Well-
when it was denied.
Well, I think we should vote. Do you have anything else? I'm sorry.
I'm ready to make a motion.
There you go. That's what I was asking for.
I make a motion that we deny the request for rehearing on the grounds that no new information was provided in the petition for the rehearing.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
No?
I don't think so.
No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is denied. All right. Now we get to the fun stuff.
Now at the end, just
Can we just, for the benefit of the public here, what that means is that this can then be appealed by the applicant to Superior Court, and it's within a 30-day time frame. So this moves this matter from the town's realm, if you will, to the court realm.
Could the Superior Court change?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. The Superior Court could also remand it back to the local zoning board and
With instructions.
with some instructions or guidance on how to deal with the situation.
So it's not dead by any stretch of the
Right.
imagination.
May I make just one small comment?
Can you come to the,
Yeah. Again, Bernie Gordon is my name. The attorney, in what he wrote, I believe had words in it that said, you would have had to find, not only that, whether there was new information, but you would have had to find that you had made some sort of a procedural error. And that was not the case. And so, again, I congratulate you guys on doing.
I don't think anyone felt that an error was made, which
I wish I felt better about it.
would warrant a new hearing. So
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
it's being moved to the
That's-
next level. I guess
that's
is
right, I
where
wish I
it's-
felt better about this, and I don't appreciate the fact that we were put in this position, I guess. Not, I know it's our job, but
I know.
I think,
It's-
Thank you for allowing us to come
Thank
and
you,
listen.
Mr. Gordon and Mrs. Gordon.
thanks for taking the interest and stopping by. Thank you.
Good job.
okay. We're going to discuss and have the first reading of amendments to the ZBA Rules of Procedure. This ought to be exciting.
It ought to be, but it won't be.
I assume everybody has
Yes, I read that.
that. Sue went through and well, I'll read the, basically, the one thing,
Do we have to read them?
yeah, do we?
No, and I would just focus on anything that you don't particularly agree with. I wanted to,
Yeah, would you go over this, please?
okay,
Because
I'd be
you-
happy. I would
you-
mention that Sue took the initiative to make this a project for you folks, which I really appreciated her picking up on it. The Office of Energy and Planning has recently come out with a new update to the Zoning Board of Adjustment Handbook. And in there, there's some good materials to refer to, and they also had a draft ordinance for, or excuse me, a draft of the rules for procedure. And so what Sue did was she took what we have on the books currently and she compared it with what they're recommending, and she made some recommended changes so that we are would be in compliance with the state RSAs. There's been some changes with respect to when your written decisions have to be made. There's been some changes in how the role of alternate board members. At one point, there was some discussion that they shouldn't be sitting up at the table with the rest of the board and participating in discussions, and there's been some clarification in the RSAs, and now alternates can participate in discussions, but it's when you get to the deliberation stage that they have to recuse themselves if they're not, if they haven't been asked to be a voting member.
And that was
So-
something that came up in the seminar we went to. They were talking about those
Right.
changes.
And so anyway, I give great credit to Sue for going through and doing this exercise. And I had a chance to look at it, and there's only two things that I would suggest. I found one typo error on page 3, and paragraph meetings, paragraph 2B. It should say on the third line of paragraph B that the chairman shall designate one of the alternate members to sit in place of the absent or disqualified member. So that's the only change, typographical change. And then the other thing that I looked at was, and I thought the wording was a little bit awkward, on page 8, amendments. And the gist of this is that the rules of procedure can be adopted, but it can't be, or changed, but it can't be at the same meeting at which they were introduced. The idea is that there would be 2 meetings instead of, and right now we have 3 meetings. So I would suggest that maybe we rework this language a little bit so that it's clearer, because I think even with the way it's presented in the state planning handbook, it's kind of confusing. So those are the only suggestions I would make. I think otherwise it looks really good. I think it covers all the new changes, and that if the board adopted these, should be in compliance with the state law.
Am I missing something? On page 2,
Yeah,
item, well, she has crossed off here. Alternate members are encouraged to attend meetings, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. Is that said anywhere?
It's
Is that picked up
actually-
anywhere else?
yes, it is. And if you look at the new paragraph 1, and you look at the red language, she has included that information.
Oh, should attend.
So it's just, she reorganized
Okay.
it a little
The-
bit
the
because
number
it
of
was
Okay,
editorially, it didn't make sense.
because I mean,
Yep. I don't think there's anything that's
okay.
grossly different, other than you can now amend your regulations in 2 meetings as opposed to 3.
And how should
Is that
that,
what-
Okay, and this is what I would, yeah.
okay, how should that read?
Okay, this is what I think it should say. These rules of procedure shall be adopted or amended by a majority vote at a regular meeting of the board, provided that such new rules or amendments as proposed have been discussed at a prior meeting of the board.
What
And-
page are you on?
I'm on page 8, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
8, okay.
In the middle,
All
under
right, okay.
amendments.
I gotcha.
Prior to the meeting of the board at which the vote is proposed to be taken, or something like that. And that gets the point across that it has to be 2 meetings. The first meeting is when they're introduced and discussed. The second meeting is when they're acted upon and adopted. Do you see where I'm referring to?
No, I don't. What
Okay.
number are you on?
On page 8,
Yeah,
where it says amendments.
there's no amendments on my page 8.
Okay, maybe it's just.
Really?
Okay,
Page 8 up, it says 8 up, yeah?
Page 8,
let me look at your copy, Elaine.
Yeah, she didn't remember the same thing.
oh, that's totally different from mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Apologies.
Let me look at your page. I don't see that.
That's what Sue just sent me.
oh,
Oh, but
You had a different version of it?
I didn't,
this is what she emailed me.
there's a lot of red in here, but I didn't.
That,
So
the
what is,
one that Sue modified is not the same as the one that's in there, just includes some of the language that's in there.
Okay.
Now what,
Let
I'm
me
trying to
look at
figure
yours.
out how you got that version and I got a different version.
I don't know, this is what's on the table in front of us.
No, this would have been emailed.
No, this would have
This
been
is not
emailed.
what we're referring to. We're referring to the document that Sue Jordan sent out to
Oh, I
everyone.
didn't get that.
this one?
Okay.
Richie,
Huh?
she sent one out, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago.
That's mine.
3 weeks ago.
Eight, no.
Oh, I didn't get
Wow.
that.
It's the rules of
Let me look
procedure.
at the first,
Yeah,
let
just
me look
an
at your whole
alternate.
thing. Let me see how,
Um,
okay, let's start at page 1.
I didn't bring one.
In light of that,
Oh,
why don't we
it's
haven't
the same
ever
as yours.
send out a whole.
See, it's different.
deal with the
It's totally
next item.
different.
Okay.
because we're not dealing on the same
Why
page.
don't we do this? Shall we postpone this
Yes.
until the next
You
meeting?
go
And I'll
through
get
and do new,
copies for everyone. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize.
I
I
don't,
don't.
I don't
I thought I was
remember.
losing it.
Did she email
Like
that to you, or
amendments,
did she send it?
I read this whole
no,
thing.
she emailed it to me. I printed it off, the email, yeah.
I don't know what happened.
And I don't know, it's gotta be,
I
it's
don't
Must be
delete
another
any
copy.
emails.
gotta be
Another
3 or
Another
4
version.
weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah? I'll,
Yeah.
I'll look, I'll look
3
for
weeks
that.
ago? Yes, why don't we, why don't you
Sorry.
go through and make all your recommendations?
And I can work that out with Sue,
Yeah.
and then we'll send another one.
Okay.
And I apologize that we have different
okay.
versions of it.
And then we'll,
I make motion we postpone any action on the revised rules of procedure until the next meeting.
Second.
And Lane, could I borrow your copy
Sure.
to give to her? to
do
show
I have
her?
a second?
I seconded.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about that anymore?
From what I read, I agree with it. I think it's a good
Okay.
idea. I like the idea of having the alternates
Okay,
available, their input.
well then, everybody.
If we all have the same copy, it should be pretty easy to take care of next time.
All right, everybody
Probably-
in favor of moving it to the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Then I'm an aye too. Okay, that ends that. Any new old business?
Did anyone go to the conference? The, put on at the Office of Energy and Planning? Zoning board members? No?
I did, I was in New Jersey
Okay,
that
all right. I
weekend.
didn't know if
I
there
was
were any.
recovering from surgery.
Okay, I didn't know if anybody had gone and,
I wouldn't retain much.
okay.
Okay,
New old business?
I'd make a motion we adjourn.
Oh,
second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.